An Orthodox Jewish woman turned glamour queen is at the center of one of the thorniest issues in the country. Julia Haart spent most of her life in the Orthodox Jewish community, a community she says felt like living in the 1800s. Haart was wed off at just 19 years old in an arranged marriage and had 4 kids. It wasn't until her daughter, who is bisexual, pushed back on the lifestyle that Haart decided at 42 years old to leave the Orthodox wing of the Jewish religion. Haart went on to become a shoe designer and creative director for lingerie brand La Perla. She famously designed Kendall Jenner's 2017 Met Gala dress. But Haart soon faced hard times again, divorcing her second husband in 2022 after accusing him of threatening to kill her and being aggressive towards her youngest son's Judaism.
This story may sound familiar, as Haart starred a Netflix hit show, My Unorthodox Life, and wrote a memoir. Fashion has given way to fighting against anti-Semitism. Haart recently launched a website to support those standing up to anti-Semitism online. It comes as lawmakers increasingly made combating anti-Semitism a top priority. President Biden vehemently condemned anti-Semitism across the country this week, while Republicans grilled several school district leaders on their handling of the issue. Her son also attended Columbia University, which has been ground zero for the students' pro-Palestinian protest movement. With us now is Julia Haart. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me on. And for the lovely introduction. That's beautiful.
Yes, thank you for your work. I'm very curious how you decided to land on making this transition into fashion. I think Amber and I like fashion a lot, but it's an interesting and alternative avenue into addressing anti-Semitism. Can you tell us how you landed on it?
Well, I'm a very proud Jewish woman, and as I've always said, I'm not a religious Jewish woman, but I'm a very proud one. And I think that, you know, in the show, in the book, my purpose was to make the community I live in a safer, better place for women, where they would have autonomy and self-determination. It never was done out of anger. It was always done out of love. And I think that as a TV personality and someone that has an audience, I think every Jewish person and every person who stands in allyship with the Jewish people have no choice today but become advocates against anti-Semitism, advocates against terrorism, because it's sweeping the world. And we have seen what that evil, monstrous, Jewish, anti-Jewish sentiment can create, and we don't want to go back there. So I don't think any of us have a choice. I think we have to fight against the hate that is spreading across the world.
And recently, we've seen some examples of anti-Semitism coming out of the student protests on college campuses. What has been your reaction to that, and what are some of the most concerning things that you've seen from that specific movement?
Well, I'll tell you something really interesting. This morning, I watched a student who is, I'm going to just say, pro-terrorist and pro-murder and rape. She got up in front of an audience and said, "You have to protect us, the protesters. You have to protect those who are anti-Jewish." She didn't say anti-Israel. She didn't say pro-Palestinian. She used the word anti-Jewish. It's clear. It's come out. This has nothing to do with Palestine. This is not political. This is the reestablishment and the rising of hatred towards the Jewish people. I spoke on Saturday at a synagogue to a bunch of scouts, girls and boys, who all go to public school. A 5th grader came over to me and said that every day when she goes to school, she is met with a group of people who point their fingers at her and say, "Go back to Auschwitz where you belong." I just saw in Stuyvesant High School, a student came forward and stated how he and his family have had to go all the way up to Congress because the Jewish people in the New York districts are getting what can literally be termed blood libeling. They are being accused of some bizarre, crazy things. As an example, in Stuyvesant paper, they literally wrote that Jewish people are trying to sterilize Palestinians and kidnap children. I mean, some of the things are crazy. So it's terrifying out there. And to me, the only way to combat it is to unify, which is exactly why I started Omnation.
Julia, I'm curious. We've heard accounts of a lot of these protesters with Jewish Voice for Peace protesters who are Jewish, who want to see an end to the war, who are critical of the current government of Israel, but they identify as anti-Zionists. How are you squaring this in your mind? Do you think all of the protesters, on college campuses are anti-Jewish? Or how do you shake this out when some of them are Jewish?
It is really difficult to watch self-hating people. It's just an uncomfortable feeling. We don't understand it, but it's not a new phenomenon, nor is it only represented in the Jewish people. Look at all these self-hating Americans we have floating around who won't stand for our flag, who literally complain every single day and hate America, even though they're Americans. Self-hatred, unfortunately, is human nature, and we can't use those extreme fringe people to justify what is clearly and unequivocally Jew hatred, whether Jews are involved in it or not, just as an American can hate America, even if they live there. So unfortunately, this is not a new phenomenon. It is not only related to Judaism. They're just people who hate themselves. I don't understand it, but it's the reality.
Now, I have a Jewish friend, Oscar Dianjak. He's a writer. He talked about how never again for him, in reference to the Holocaust, means never again for anyone, and that it's a part of his Jewish faith. He is a religious Jew. That means we have to stand up for people. He quotes, in Hebrew, that there are people, the righteous ones, and no one can ever tell if they're among these 36 righteous ones. And it's this kind of teaching that any humble, anonymous act of kindness and caring for other human beings is key to the Jewish religion, and that's why they're standing up to what's happening in Palestine. What do you make of this? Do you think this is a self-hating kind of perspective?
Well, I think that the beautiful part about, the Jewish culture and our history is that we have always stood with the underdog. We have always defended others, even at the cost of our own lives. Who marched with Martin Luther King? Jews did. Which lawyers went to the South to defend blacks? Jews did. There is, I think, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere between 20 to 30% of all Nobel Prize laureates are Jews. Jews care about everyone, not just Jews. And the tragedy of it is that all of these innocent Palestinians that are being killed and whose deaths are being blamed upon Israel, the reality is these people are just as subjugated, tormented as the Jewish people are by Hamas. Nobody wants to be run by terrorist fundamentalist organizations that can mutilate female genitalia while raping people. That is not who you want running your system. So the truth is that the West and these completely Jew-hating, pro-Palestinian protesters, they're literally defending the very people that are killing the Palestinians. It is Hamas's responsibility to ensure Palestinian safety by not putting their weapons, the hostages, and them surrounding themselves with women and children. They want Palestinians to die. It is on their hands and their head that those deaths are. And I cannot understand how anyone looking at Iran, the fact that Iran is inviting these students to school in Iran to tell you everything you need to know. Think about the millions of women in Iran who stood up against the very regimes, against the Hamas, Hezbollah, fundamentalist regimes that keep women down. So yes, I'm going to fight for those women in Gaza. I'm going to fight for every Muslim woman, just like I did when I spoke in front of thousands of Muslim women when the Iranian women were protesting. I went to Washington. I was a keynote speaker, this little Jew girl from Muncie, for the Iranian women. So I 1000% agree. Every Jewish person that I know cares about all life. We just want the people responsible for the murder of both innocent Muslims and innocent Jews to be held accountable and to release the hostages. Period. It's that simple. Then every person is safe. Jew, Muslim, Christian, Druze, everyone.
Julia, what do you make of the current administration's policy and posture towards Israel? There's been two recent incidents where some critics have accused them of betraying Israel, both by pulling weaponry from them as they begin their siege on Rafah And also, there was a recent incident where the Biden administration reportedly helped negotiate a ceasefire without Israeli involvement that Hamas then accepted publicly, which was viewed as sort of a pressure campaign to get Israel to accept a ceasefire without release of all of the hostages. What is your perspective on exactly how the American government's policy has been towards Israel over the past few months?
So, what I've seen is that it is now cool and popular to hate Jewish people. Standing up in allyship with Jews right now is dangerous for you. You're going to lose followers. You're going to lose jobs. People are going to attack you. I can read you some of the posts that I have. What's it called? That literally comments that I get on my posts. Yesterday, something was related to something to the effect that don't bring them home, bring them to Hitler. Something to that effect. It was wild. That's why I started On Nation. We need to change this completely disastrous trend where it is cool and popular to hate Jewish people. And if you defend Jewish people, you may lose your election. You may lose this. You may lose that. How do we change that? That was the question I asked myself. And I realized that aggregation, unity, defeats hate. And so what I've done is created a website. We're asking every person, Jewish, not Jewish, Muslim, Christian, I don't care. Anyone who wants to stand in allyship with the Jewish people against anti-Semitism, sign up. The more thousands of people that sign up, what we're going to do starting June 12th is we're going to put 3 names on there. And we're going to ask every person who has signed up to follow those 3 names every morning. We want it to become a habit. Get up, get dressed, brush your teeth, go on omnation.com, follow those 3 people. The power of that is, imagine if 400,000 people sign up, 500,000, 1 million people. Imagine if someone gets attacked, someone loses a job, and we put that name on OmNation and they wake up the next morning with 1 million new followers. We are creating a safe space for people to speak up for the Jewish people. And I think that will change the policies and politics, because I think what these policies are related to is the popularity of Jewish hatred. And the only way to combat it is to change that trajectory. We need people to understand that anti-Semitism is wrong, that terrorism is wrong, that rape can never, ever be excused. That is not an act of freedom fighting. And that if you are standing in allyship with the Jewish people, they will support you and defend you. If you get attacked, we will come to the rescue. And that's why I think there's all of this going on, is because it's so popular to hate Jews. It's easy to fall into that unfortunate kind of trend to chase after popularity. And that's what's happening. And we need to change that. So sign up to OmNation. Be one of those people who helps change the trajectory of hate that is sweeping the globe.
So is this a sort of fundraising pitch? Is there a cost associated or a subscription, or are you creating a network of people?
That's it. It's just unity. That's the beauty of it. You don't have to have money. You don't need followers. We're not asking for anything other than being united. All we're saying is every person has power. If we aggregate ourselves together, if we stand together, if we all sign up, and when someone who is speaking up against hatred gets attacked, we come to the rescue. Think about the power of that. First of all, the people who are already fighting on behalf of the Jewish people get protected. But number 2, all of those people who want to speak up for the Jewish people who are afraid to, it gives them a safe space to do so, because they know they get attacked, they put their name on there, we're going to put that name on there, and they're going to get 1 million new followers, 500,000 followers, real followers, not bots. You cannot buy that. It takes years and years to create, and it's a game changer for people. So we're creating an environment where it is safe to speak the truth and stand up against terrorism, against rape. So the beauty of this is it's not asking for anything. It takes literally 3 seconds of every day. I want, and I know that unity defeats hate. I have seen it in my own life. And if we band together and we follow the people simultaneously in one shot, in one 12-hour period, can you imagine the power of that unity? We will change the conversation on social media. We will enable those who want to speak up on behalf of the Jewish people to do so without fear of reprisals. And of course, lastly, and most importantly, we will stop the conflagration of Jewish hatred that is spreading across the globe.
Just curious, Julia, really quick before we wrap, is there a way to prevent people from signing up for this and then using this to block whoever's on the list? Is there a way to verify that whoever's joining is a part of the Jewish community?
So here's the beautiful part of it. There's no information on there. There's no messaging. There's no text. There's nothing. It's just 3 names. So you sign up, you see the 3 names, but these are names you already know, because if they're going up on that website, those 3 names have already been attacked. They're already being attacked on social media. They've already lost all their followers. So the people that we're putting up there are people that everyone already knows is standing in allyship with the Jewish people. So there's really no way to stop it. We're just asking people to unify. That's simple. We're asking people to be the protection, the infrastructure, in order to be able to speak the truth and stand up against hatred.
Interesting. Thank you for your time, Julia, and talking with us. More rising after this.
Thank you so much. You guys are amazing.